Have you ever stopped to think about how that app on your phone actually works? I mean, really works? Behind every single button you tap, there's this incredibly complex system. And here's the thing. Before anyone writes a single line of code, that system has to be planned out. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the visual language that engineers use to turn a big idea, the blueprint, into a working reality. You know, the action. Let's dive in. So, let's start with a big question. How do you get a whole team of people to understand a really complex idea without just drowning them in pages and pages of text? Whether you're building a website, launching a product, or heck, even planning a vacation, the answer is usually the same. You draw it out. A good picture, a simple diagram, it doesn't just explain an idea, it creates this shared understanding that words alone just can't touch. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why drawing is so important for tricky ideas. Then we'll get into what I call the system blueprint. That's the big picture plan. After that, we're going to zoom in and start charting the action, step by step. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by looking at why these diagrams are just so powerful in the real world. Okay, section 1, explaining the complex. You know, think about building a car today. You've got the engine, the electronics, the software, the safety systems, hundreds of different parts that all have to work together perfectly. Well, building software is exactly like that. There are so many moving pieces, and if just one person misunderstands something, it can lead to total chaos. That's why these visual tools aren't just a nice-to-have, they are absolutely essential. And this quote just nails it, right? Before you can build something amazing, the vision has to be crystal clear for every single person on the team. A visual plan isn't just for the super technical engineers, it's for the designers, the project managers, even the person paying the bills. It becomes the common ground, the foundation that the entire project is built on. So let's talk about the first tool for creating that common ground. This brings us to section 2, the system blueprint. And I want you to think of it exactly like an architect's blueprint for a house. You don't start by picking out throw pillows, right? No, you start by figuring out where the rooms, the walls, and the doors are going to go. This is that high-level structural view of the whole thing. In the tech world, this blueprint is called a system diagram, and it's such a simple but powerful idea. It's just a visual map that shows all the major parts of a system, and, this is the crucial part, how they're all connected. It's like having that 30,000-foot view that lets you see the entire landscape all at once. Now, system diagram isn't some one-size-fits-all thing. Nope. Depending on what you're trying to figure out, you'll use a different kind of map. We're going to look at 3 of the most common ones you'll see out there: block diagrams, network diagrams, and data flow diagrams. Each one gives you a totally unique and really important perspective. First up, we have the block diagram. This is kind of your starting point. It's the simplest and probably the most common. Think of it like a map of a city that only shows you the big neighborhoods. You're not worried about the individual streets just yet. You're just using simple boxes to see the main components and get a feel for how they relate to one another. Next, we've got the network diagram. So if the block diagram shows the neighborhoods, this one shows you the actual roads and highways connecting them. It's all about connectivity. It maps out exactly how physical things, like your computer, your Wi-Fi router, the servers out in the cloud, are all linked together, whether it's with a physical cable or a wireless signal. And our third one is the data flow diagram. Now, this one isn't about the roads, it's about the traffic on those roads. It actually tracks the information itself as it moves through the system. It shows us where data comes from, like, say, you filling out a form on a website, how it gets processed, and where it ends up being stored. It's all about the journey of the data. Okay, this slide is so important because it clears up something people get mixed up all the time. System diagrams are the blueprint. They show you what the system is made of. They focus on the structure. Flowcharts, on the other hand, which we're about to get into, are the recipe. They show you how a specific process actually works, step by detailed step. Blueprint versus recipe. If you remember one thing, remember that. And that idea of a recipe leads us perfectly into section 3, charting the action. We've seen the big picture blueprint. Now it's time to zoom way in and look at the detailed step-by-step instructions for how a specific task gets done. And that recipe is called a flowchart. It's a diagram that lays out a process from the very beginning to the very end. It uses a specific set of shapes to represent actions or decisions, and then arrows to show you the path to follow. It's literally a visual set of instructions. The real magic of a flowchart is that it's a universal language. These shapes always mean the same thing no matter where you are. Ovals are your start and end points. Rectangles, that's for actions, the doing parts. The diamond is super important. That's any decision point, usually with a yes or a no path. Parallelograms mean data is either coming in or going out, and the arrows, well, they just show you which way to go. So let's see how this all clicks together. You always kick things off with a start oval. Then maybe you need to get some data from the user. Next up, a critical decision diamond. Is that data any good? If yes, you follow one path to a rectangle to process it. If no, an arrow might loop you back to try again. Finally, you output the result and close it all out with an end oval. See? It's a complete logical story told with just a few shapes. So we've looked at the blueprint and the recipe, and that brings us to our final and maybe most important section, the power of a diagram. I mean, why do we even bother with all these boxes and arrows? What is it that makes these simple drawings so incredibly effective? Well, the answer is that these visuals give you a massive return on your investment of time. And while there are tons of reasons why, it pretty much all boils down to 5 huge benefits that can literally transform any project. Let's just walk through these. First and foremost, diagrams make complicated stuff easy to get. That instant clarity immediately improves team communication because suddenly everyone is looking at the exact same map. And when you're all on the same page, it's so much easier to spot problems, like bottlenecks or weird logic, before you start building. This whole process naturally creates clear documentation. And the end result of all that? You get a huge boost in efficiency and you dramatically cut down on costly mistakes. It's a win-win-win. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. We've been talking about big IT systems, but really this way of thinking applies to just about everything. So take a second and think about it. What's a complex process in your own life? Maybe planning a project at work, or tackling a personal goal, or even just trying to organize your week that could be made way clearer, way more effective with a simple flowchart. The real power here is that a good diagram can bring clarity to almost anything.